Tiamat spent the most time crafting her black dragon. I was flabbergasted at her final product and suggested oh so many adjustments. But at some point, a project is simply due. Quote by Fizban the Fabulous. How you doing everybody? Hope you're having a great day and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be covering the black dragons from both Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder. I've already done a video on the white dragons from both Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder, and check that out if you haven't. A link to that video will be in the description down below or in one of the cards popping up right now. And with that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Now let's begin with the description of the black dragon. The monster manual describes the black dragons as having deep socketed eyes and broad nasal opening. A black dragon's face resembles a skull. Its curving segmented horns are bone colored near the base and darken to dead black at the tips. As a black dragon ages, the flesh around its horns and cheekbones deteriorate as though eaten by acid, leaving thin layers of hide that enhance its skeletal appearance. A black dragon's head is marked by spikes and horns. Its tongue is flat with a forked tip, drooling slime whose acidic scent adds to the dragon's reek of rotting vegetation and foul water. When it hatches, a black dragon has glossy black scales. As it ages, its scales become thicker and duller, helping it blend into the marshes and blasted ruins that are its home. In Pathfinder, black dragons look very similar to their D&D counterparts, but have very distinct differences. One of these distinctions are its horns. Black dragons in Pathfinder have 6 horns. The top 2 pairs sweep back, while the bottom pair is facing downwards. The horns go from biggest to smallest from top to bottom. Their appearance is more aquatic and aerodynamic in nature than the D&D version. While it explicitly states in the bestiary that the black dragons have gills, I could not find any mention of black dragons having gills in the Monster Manual or Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, but both versions are capable of breathing underwater. Let's take a look at their personalities. In both D&D and Pathfinder, black dragons are categorized as chaotic evil, meaning that they are ruthless and cruel. The Monster Manual has this to say about them. The most evil-tempered and vile of the chromatic dragons, black dragons collect the wreckage and treasures of fallen peoples. The dragons loathe seeing the weak prosper and revel in the collapse of humanoid kingdoms. They make their homes in fetid swamps and crumbling ruins where kingdoms once stood. The Pathfinder counterpart isn't very different, as the bestiary describes them as such. Murderous tyrants of marshes, swamps, bogs, and fens. Black dragons terrorize their domains with intense fervor. Gleefully sadistic, they rule their fetid principalities from a deep cave or otherwise isolated part of the swamp, with a mix of lightning-quick raids and subterfuge. Their hatred for other creatures is as acidic as their breath weapon, and they rarely tolerate even other dragons of their kind except perhaps to mate or temporarily collaborate to take down a mutual enemy. Now that we know what they are like, let's take a look at their lairs. Black dragons dwell in swamps on the frayed edges of civilization. A black dragon's lair is a dismal dank cave, grotto, or ruin that is at least partially flooded, providing pools where the dragon rests and where its victims can ferment. The lair is littered with acid-pitted bones of previous victims and the fly-ridden carcasses of fresh kills. Watched over by crumbling statues, such places are often crawling with pests, snakes, centipedes, scorpions, and slimes. Their lairs are filled with the stench of death and decay. I believe dragons in Pathfinder don't have lair actions, so we're going to be focusing on the D&D version for the next section. On initiative count 20, losing initiative ties, the dragon takes a lair action to cause one of the following effects. The dragon can't use the same effect 2 rounds in a row. Pools of water that the dragon can see within 120 feet of it surge outwards in a grasping tide. Any creature on the ground within 20 feet of such a pool must succeed on a DC 15 strength throw or be pulled up to 20 feet into the water and knocked prone. A cloud of swarming insects fills a 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point the dragon chooses within 120 feet of it. The cloud spreads around corners and remains until the dragon dismisses it as an action, uses the lair action again, or dies. The cloud is lightly obscured. Any creature in the cloud when it appears must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, taking 10 3d6 piercing damage on a fail save, or half as much damage on a successful one. A creature that ends its turn in the cloud takes 10 or 3d6 piercing damage. Magical darkness spreads from a point the dragon chooses within 60 feet of it, filling a 15-foot radius sphere until the dragon dismisses it as an action, uses the Slayer action again, or dies. The darkness spreads around corners. A creature with dark vision can't see through this darkness, and non-magical light can't illuminate it. If any of the effect area overlaps an area of light created by the spell of second level or lower, the spell that created the light is dispelled. Fizban's Treasury of Dragons adds other actions a dragon might be able to perform for its lair. The first one is Filth Burst. The dragon chooses a point on the ground it can see within 120 feet of it. A 20-foot radius, 20-foot high cylinder of watery filth centered on the point erupts from the ground until initiative count 20 on the next round. Each creature in the cylinder when it appears, or at the end of its turn, or that ends its turn there, must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, taking 10 or 3d6 poison damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. The cylinder is difficult terrain. The next is Grasping Muck. Tendrils of roiling muck extend from the dragon's lair to grasp up to 3 creatures of the dragon's choice that it can see within the lair. A targeted creature must succeed on a DC 15 strength saving throw or be restrained until initiative count 20 on the next round. And the last one is Noxious Gas. A bubble of swamp gas erupts in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on a point the dragon can see within its lair. Each creature in the area must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or be poisoned for 1 minute. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. Now let's take a look at the regional effects. Regional effects only start to take place once the dragon reaches the adult age category, and it has been in an area for some time. The region containing a legendary black dragon's lair is warped by the dragon's magic, which creates one or more of the following effects. The land within 6 miles of the lair takes twice as long as normal to traverse, since the plants grow thick and twisted. The swamps are thick with reeking mud. The second effect is water sources within 1 mile of the lair are supernaturally fouled. Enemies of the dragon that drink such water regurgitate it within minutes. And the last effect is fog lightly obscures the land within 6 miles of the lair. Like the lair actions, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons adds more regional effects to use when dealing with a black dragon. The first is New. Creatures that spend a year within 10 miles of the dragon's lair are filled with listless despair. The second is Grating Spies. Trilling, obnoxious birds, bugs, and reptiles follow any humanoid creature unknown to the dragon within 6 miles of the lair, imposing disadvantage on dexterity stealth checks. The dragon can suppress this effect at will. And the last is Rotting Domain. Stinging bugs are aggressive, and the air is heavy with the odor of rot within 6 miles of the lair. If the dragon dies, vegetation remains as it has grown, but other effects fade over 1 to 10 days. Now that we know where they live, let's take a look at what they eat. As mentioned before, black dragons prefer to have a carnivorous diet with a special flavoring, that flavoring being the meat being fouled and rotting. They do this not only because of preference, but because they like to torture their prey before consuming it. It revels in the knowledge that it caused the suffering to its prey to satisfy its sadistic nature. The monster manual states that kobolds infest the lair, so I imagine they are a snack if the dragon doesn't have anything else to feast on. And Fizban's Treasury of Dragons provides tables of connected creatures list for each age of the dragon, and I would imagine some of them end up being food for the dragon. Some of these creatures are troglodytes, bullywogs, lizard folk, and giant frogs. I would like to also suggest the creatures that appear in the Swamp Monsters table of the Dungeon Master's Guide. Now let's take a look at the Hoard. The Monster Manual has this to say: Black dragons hoard the treasures and magic items of crumbled empires and conquered kingdoms to remind themselves of their greatness. The more civilizations a dragon outlasts, the more entitled it feels to claim the wealth of current civilizations for itself, and in Fizban's, this is expanded. The black dragons also love conventional treasures such as gems, particularly opals, precious metals that do not corrode easily, and stone sculptures. And in the bestiary for Pathfinder, it says black dragons treasure hoards primarily consisting of gems and expensive glasswork, as valuables of softer substance can't survive the dragon's acidic presence. In Fizban's, it gives us a generic guide of what a dragon's hoard will look like depending on the dragon's age, and it also provides a table of art objects a black dragon is likely to have. I'll read some of them as an example. The first being an elegant necklace owned by a beloved noble who disappeared years ago. The next is stone carvings represent a pantheon of deities that passed from common knowledge long ago. And lastly, a beautiful embalmed urn, the dragon's former green dragon rival. Now let's get on to the main part of the video and let's talk about their tactics. And we'll begin with the wormling black dragons. Black dragons lay their eggs in a clutch in a pool of acid. The acid helps to dissolve the eggshell, making it weak enough for the baby to break through. Once the wormling is born, the first thing it does is either make a break for it, or the most likely action, destroying the other unhatched eggs in its clutch. The wormling would then look for a suitable place to lair. This area would have good access to creatures it can hunt. At this age, the black dragon wormling starts learning its breath weapon, and it is their go-to attack in combat. The black dragon wormling would prefer to use ambush tactics to get the surprise attack on its prey, and it will use their acid breath weapon attack. They will try and kill its prey within 2 to 3 turns, and they don't like fighting more than one creature when hunting. If the dragon has bitten more than it can chew, it uses its breath weapon to distract its prey and flies away. The only time a black dragon wormling attacks in daylight is when it is confident that it can kill its prey. Next up, we have the young black dragons. At this age, a black dragon establishes its territory and lair. It is also the time when they start to build their first hoard. At this age, the black dragons start to build their networks and gather subordinates, minions, and form alliances with creatures like lizard folk, bullywogs, kobolds, and marrows. They will use this network to keep tabs on creatures that could pose a threat to it and its future. When it comes to combat, they still prefer to use ambush tactics on their prey, but they might be willing to take on 2 to 3 opponents at a time depending on the creature. At this stage, young black dragon's personality is that of a snarling bully. And the next age category is the adult black dragon. When a dragon reaches adulthood, it is a momentous occasion for them, as they are now considered to be legendary creatures, which gives them access to legendary resistance, legendary actions, lair actions, and regional effects. At this age, the black dragon has more lairs and territory to rival a small city-state. These new lairs allow the dragon to hunt in multiple locations, as it needs more creatures to satiate its hunger. The network they established when they were young is now totally subservient to them. The fame of the dragon has grown, and to the point that surrounding neighbors know of the dragon's existence. Like the white dragons we discussed in the previous video, it would be very difficult for a party of adventurers to approach an adult black dragon's territory or even its lair without the dragon knowing about them. In combat, the dragon will use its lair actions to knock prone its enemies, especially the melee-oriented ones. It will try to blind as many enemies as it can, and this will give it advantage on its attacks with its blind sight. This is useful against spellcasters, as they usually have to be able to see their targets to cast a spell. The dragon will use its tail attack to attack creatures that are adjacent to it, as well as any creature that is within the range of it. The wing attack is used to give the dragon space when it is surrounded by multiple enemies from different directions. It will also use this attack in order to flee from a bad encounter, as the attack can knock the opponents prone, giving the dragon advantage on its attacks. I have used the wing attack in situations where the dragon was surrounded by 4 creatures and it knocked them prone, grabbed a creature and flew off. As their saving throw modifiers are good to begin with, they will most likely use their legendary resistance as early in the combat if they fail a saving throw. As with its younger counterpart, the dragon prefers to use its breath weapon and will try to position itself to catch as many opponents as possible. Another new attack it will use as soon as possible is its frightful presence, which causes a creature to make a wisdom saving throw. The dragon prefers to go for the weaker creatures, the weaker enemies first, such as the wizards or any character that is not heavily armored. The dragon will never surrender. Either it will flee or die fighting if it knows it's going to lose. And the last age category is the Ancient Black Dragon. At this age, the dragon has multiple territories or a very large territory to the point that the dragon can affect the fate of the world. Not much changes for the dragon when it becomes an ancient, as they don't gain any new abilities and effects. Their already existing effects and abilities get more powerful, and they are larger in size with more hit points. They will use the same tactics as the adult dragon would use, but they are more cruel and brutal and will toy with their prey more. There are very few creatures that could challenge an ancient black dragon in its territory, and while this fact will give it some comfort, they will never stop being on the lookout for anything that might be a threat to it. As mentioned in the White Dragon video, the thing I liked that the Pathfinder did was that it provided a list of spells the dragon is likely to have and use in certain ages. In D&D, this has been rectified with the release of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, but it is still not enough in my opinion, so I would recommend you take a look at the Pathfinder stat sheet of the Black Dragons for inspiration if you want your dragon to be a spellcaster. Now here's an example of an encounter with a Black Dragon. This encounter is something that I want to try to run, and it has been on my mind for a while. The inspiration for this encounter came from Fizban's. The adventure will start with the party investigating a Mind Flare community, which will lead the party to interact with a Black Dragon, which might have some connections to the Mind Flayers. It is later revealed that the dragon and Mind Flayers have been working together, and that they are preparing to merge the dragon with an Elder Brain to bring forth an Elder Brain dragon. Before I end the video, let's take a look at some notable Black Dragons. First up, we have Rashak, a black great worm that is worshipped as a god by numerous kobolds, dragonborn, and lizardfolk. I will cover the great worm in a separate video. Next, we have Duragogoth, aka the Creeping Doom. He is a black dragon who has embraced undeath and has become a Dracolich. Next on the list is Voragomanthor and Wyver-Rendor, twin black dragons that share a psychic link that allows them to work together. They hide the fact that they are twins and work together to portray that they are one dragon. Next is Cardenseer Vitriol, aka Ebon Death, another black dragon that has embraced undeath by becoming a Dracolich. And from Pathfinder we have Cerzillan, or Cerzillian, a great worm black dragon that rules over the fetid Graidmere swamps in Ushtalov, where she has resided for over 800 years. She knows something darker even than herself resides somewhere in the swamp, but she has yet to find how to summon such an entity. For now, she slumbers, waking only to demand sacrifices. And that's gonna be it for this video. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment down below if you have any questions, any suggestions. I'll try to reply as soon as I can. And with that, that's gonna be the end, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.